this idea of what I call referral gravity. This is making it easy for the marketplace to understand when to refer you and to draw in business without having to cold call. How do you get chosen without chasing? How do you make sure agents know exactly when to call you, that you build trust even when they don't need you right then? How do you make sure people, even when they're not ready to transact, still believe in you and remember who you are? And then how do we just knock it out the park?
Shift happens, opportunities change, and success is a choice. So when shift happens, it is our choice. Either we let shift happen or we can make shift happen. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Talkin' Shift with Craig and Brady today. I'm really excited. This is going to be a really fun conversation. I got my man, Brady Thomas, on with us. And, you're going to really like to get to know Brady. You're going to want to dig into Brady's business. You're going to want to follow Brady on his social media. And as you get to know, Brady is a top producer, an elite producer in our business. But I want to point something out. Brady did 180 million, is that right? 180 million in 2025. And 124 million in 2024. So we have $100+ million producer in here. But this is what I want to point out. That's a 45% increase in business year over year from 24 to 25 in what is arguably our most challenging years in this business. Brady, you and I were just talking, before as we were getting going here, and there's an absolute, I think, indicator, a signal, if you will. And what you said was like, I'm just falling back in love with this business, and I absolutely love how you say that. And we're going to dig into this conversation. But first, Brady, welcome to Talkin' Shift. I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited for everybody to get to know you, man. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited as well.
Yeah. My pleasure. Well, so let's kind of dig into that. Right out of the gate, you're falling back in love with the business. So what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So I've been doing this 15 years. My first 10 years in the business, I really was very much your belly to belly, one-to-one type of originator. Coffee dates, lunches, showing up at open houses, asking for the business, and hopefully performing and doing a good job at that. And that, taught me how to sell. It taught me how to perform and how to try to achieve operational excellence. But when we got really busy in 2020 and 2021, I felt like I was just order taker, just super reactive. And my team and I, we grinded it out when things were good. We were very focused on making sure we didn't drop the ball and we provided excellent service for our clients and our partners. But it was painful. It was painful. It was like karmically hurtful to feel like you were just getting bossed around and everybody was thinking about how quick can you close or when can you do this and when can you do that. And there was no real value that I felt that we were adding. And then rates jumped. In 2022, rates doubled. That same time, my wife got a job across the country. I'm from Oakland, California. My business is in California. I live in California ostensibly. My wife's also from the Bay Area. She got a job in Boston. So we had to pick up our lives and move to Massachusetts, where she's a college professor on campus. So that forced me to take a look at my business, the one that I had built one-to-one, face-to-face, and try to see where I was going to go from here. And what I realized is, I needed to figure out a way to still show up for my partners and my clients, even when I physically wasn't in the Bay Area. So that all happened at about the same time. Rates, kind of were going crazy. I was moving. I was also noticing that some of the referral partners I had worked with in the past were starting to send deals other places. And I don't think it was because those agents necessarily thought that those lenders would do a better job or were, a better fit for the client, but they were just findable online. They were easy to work with because they were easy to find. And I noticed that. And then there was a last thing that happened right at the same time. I hired somebody, Laura, who's still with me. She's amazing. And she came in and she's, a little bit younger than me. And she's sitting here hearing all the conversations I'm having every single day. And she said, "What's wrong with you? Why are you not sharing this online? I hear you explaining things. I hear people constantly having these moments where they're like, oh, I didn't think of it that way." You're having an actual shift with these folks in how they think about wealth, how they think about real estate, how they think about their potential and self-actualization, and you're not sharing it. So all those things came together at the same time. And I was like, I have to be more findable online. I have to go one to many. And that started the transformation for me. So that was, about about 4 years ago. The first time I posted on Instagram, I had some followers from the old Facebook days. And I went outside, I just turned on the camera, I hit that little red button
Yeah.
right in the middle, and I just put the camera on myself and I said, hey, look, you know, I have this stuff that I know. It's about real estate. I'm going to start talking about it. And I did that and I uploaded it. And then I did it again the next day. And then I did it again the next day. And, 600 posts later, like I've kind of figured it out a bit. And so, one, growing, my Instagram following from 1,000 followers to now like 28,000 has been really instructive in trying to understand how to communicate well. But it's allowed me to learn something in this business where I kind of was spinning my wheels after 10 or 12 years and feeling like, there has to be more to it.
Okay, so I mean, you said so much in this too that I think just resonates. I mean, and I want to go back a little bit and maybe sort of there's some insights that I'm drawing from this conversation. I mean, you're already a top producer, right? You're owner of LaSalle Mortgage out of the East Bay, Oakland, top producer. Yeah, and I get it, right? Coming out of those, 2021, years, grind. But you
Yeah.
said something. I'm an order taker. I became transactional, and then I'm seeing the dots connected into value. Getting to know you. You are a values based man, right? A values based, producer in what you do, and so I could see how there is maybe a little bit of that disconnect, and then. And I'm going to use your words because you said this before. Now let's break it, right? Your wife gets this opportunity. You guys are moving to Boston. Here we are. The market has shifted, right? Because shift happens.
Yep.
I know very well what that means. So all of a sudden you're in this opportunity, and notice what I'm saying, you're in this opportunity, not this problem, right? And that's a frame of mind. You're in this opportunity where, okay, the industry has shifted, my life is shifting, I need to shift. And then one day you just pressed that little red button in that moment because I can that's actually how I launched this podcast. I finally just wanted to say, fuck it, I'm just gonna go live. And I did my first live. And that's all I needed to do to spark that, initial motivation that needs to turn into momentum, right? Because motivation doesn't last. So you just hit that red button. Was that difficult? Was that hard? Were you nervous? Were you like, just like in that like moment, what was that experience?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
I think this is a universal human trait is that we all hate the sound of our voice. So doing that, and hearing, my voice coming back to me out the other side of the speaker is uncomfortable. I will tell you, having done that hundreds of times now, it's fine. It doesn't matter, I mean, so in the beginning, it was a little tricky. I also fell victim to the same thing when I talk to my team now. I'm like, hey, just do it. Everyone says, well, I'm not 100% there. I don't know 100% of what to do. And so my thing to them was I wasn't 100% there. I was 70% convinced that this was something that was important. And 70% is plenty good when you're testing out. And then, I posted a ton of stuff in the beginning that was kind of the standard fare, right? What everybody else was doing. 3 ways to improve your credit, or
Yeah.
let me give you the overview of the home buying process, or all of this. And I realized for me that I didn't enjoy doing that and it wasn't resonating with people. And so I tested. Like, that's the one thing I will tell you. If there is, a trait or a quality that has boded well for me, it's just my willingness to try things. And then if it doesn't work, pivot. And I kind of fell into what I think, is a good framework for connecting with people online. So initially, I always tell people, look, you need to figure out if you're a student or an expert. If you're a student, be a student. Show the journey of becoming, right? I think a lot of times people say, oh, I don't feel like myself. I don't feel authentic online. And that's because they're students trying to act like experts. No, if you're a student, that's fair. Take people on the journey with you as you figure out and you share your wins and your losses. If you're an expert, then you can make expert content. You can show the proof. You can show the credibility. For me, it was first figuring out like what was my voice. And then it was figuring out who I was talking to. And that took a long time because, as you know, in the mortgage space, we serve 2 masters. We have clients, the home buyers, people who are refinancing, and then we have real estate agents or referral partners. And so I'm always kind of thinking about that and trying to figure out who I was really speaking to was very important. And then, finally, it was just trying to make sure when I got up there, I was being relatable rather than trying to be impressive. Right. And so in the beginning, I would say, we closed this transaction in 14 days, or I did this much volume last month. Nobody cares. First of all, I don't even know those things mean nothing to a regular person. 14 or 12 days or 15 million in a month. they don't live in our world. And so when I really got cut through was when I was sharing like relatable content. So there was a video I did, my very first like quote unquote viral video. I was sitting in the car. I think it worked really well because I had like the flu or I had a cold. So I was stuffed up and I was complaining about how this client had called me at 8 o'clock on a Thursday. I got on the phone with them. I figured out how to get them pre-approved so that they could buy before they sell. They got in contract and then they went back to their old lender because I'd showed them what to do. They went back to their old lender. The old lender said they would give them a lower rate. And they said they had to go with their old lender because they had to do what was right for their family. And my response is, if I had done what was right for my family, you wouldn't have got this home. And that one was like my first video where it looked like I was damn near in tears, but I realized something there was that cut through like agents from all over the country are messaging like, I had this situation, this happens to us, keep your head up. And then it dawned on me, it doesn't help for me to try to be that, this like amazing persona online. What people really need is somebody that they're like, okay, cool, this person's been where I am and they made it work. So a lot of what I try to do is showing people, that I feel like you're best positioned to help the person you once were. And so I try to talk a lot about my journey in my content.
Okay, so that's actually really fascinating, right? And by the way, like just be human.
Yeah.
And there's this formula, which I hate, of social media where you have to have that hook right out of the gate. Here's your top 3 ways I'll make you a
Right.
millionaire in the next 30 days. Here's, I'll make you $100 million producer. Here's, the 5 steps or else you're going to fail. I hate that, but that's the formula. And I think that is actually noise. I get it. There's a formula, but what I'm hearing from you is you're breaking that. I'm just going to be human. I like the stage that you're talking about, student to expert, but there's a journey in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's the relatable, the authentic, and what you just said there too, like, how do you help the prior you? That resonates with me too. Like oftentimes, even in my coaching or my speaking or whatever I'm doing, I tell people, I'm really just coaching myself, right? I
Yeah.
just figure if this helps me, it might help you.
Exactly. I think that's 100% true.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you're kind of like, you've done a few, you're starting to seeing what's resonating. How are you like genuinely now also feeling about doing your content? Are you starting to feel a little bit more momentum kicking in? Is it becoming more natural? Is there a little bit more of a push behind you? Like, okay, I got some wind behind me.
Yeah. I mean, so I will tell you, I'm now a self-proclaimed marketing nerd. Like I read the books, I spend money on coaching. I really want to learn what other people are doing, what's worked for them. I think that these are incredibly important skills to have, focusing on how I show up online and building a digital brand, whatever that means, basically trying to allow people to know me before they meet me has made me a better communicator. It's made me better in sales. It's made me better in my leadership, in my personal life. I mean, if you think that you really have 3 seconds before somebody's going to scroll, I know, we don't want to use formulaic hooks and we do want to be relatable, but you do have to think about like people's attention online. They're not in their smartest moments. They're usually decompressing, laying in the bed, laying on the couch. And you have to think about how to connect with them and signal what your intended topic is pretty quickly. And so that has made me better at what I do. I also think a lot about if mortgage went away. If mortgage went away tomorrow, the skills that I have built through understanding how to connect with people at scale and show up online, I could take and go build another business or another brand. And that's the thing why I feel like the more I pour into it, even though, I might spend a year doing a mastermind that cost me 20 grand just to get 1% better, that 1% better is so much more important than just continuing to focus on the things I already knew, because the whole idea here is like this is an infinite game. There's no win or lose. Like, yes, my numbers last year might have been good, but that doesn't mean I'm waking up on January 1st with any of that rolling over. And I just want to continue to improve, and that spark of like learning new stuff and figuring out what's working, getting that instant feedback has been fun for me, and it's been helpful for the clients I work with too. I mean, they reach out and say that the stuff we're sharing is impactful. So that's important. Additionally, I don't have to sell as much.
Yeah.
when we market better, right? People are coming to me and have already convinced themselves that they want to work with myself and my team. It's not like I'm in the interview in the same way of saying, hey, we got 3 lenders and we're going to interview each of you and give me your best rate. It's a different conversation. And they know that because they've seen how I explain things and how I explain my value, and that it's not just, shop around for the lowest rate and we're going to always be the discount leader. No, we're coming at this totally differently and thinking and positioning our clients to understand us and anchoring them in who we are a bit differently.
Well, and here's maybe even a little bit of the truth. It might sound a little ironic, but because you have found your voice and you're executing your voice, you're creating trust with your clients or your audience before you've even met them. So to your point earlier, they're getting to know you before you've even met. So you have trust. Now, in a large scale marketing, the irony is that can also break trust or lose trust or not even gain it to begin with. And even going back to what you were saying earlier, during the heightened volume years, you were in a very transactional order taking sort of mode. And how do I connect my value? So you have found this footprint to connect your value, build trust with your audience before you've met. So by the time you guys get together, it's not transactional. It is values based. I mean, that connection is, that connection is amazing. I mean, and I think that's what everyone's striving for, but do we have the courage to take those steps forward? Because very easy to get stuck, and right, like I call it the great unstucking. And again, I'll just say, going back to your point earlier, sometimes you just got to say, fuck it, and just press that red button and see where that, starts, to take you.
Yeah. And I work with Neil Dingra, who's super well known. He was one of the first people in the mortgage space to really build a brand online. And I use this with people all the time, but he has a framework for pretty much everything. And a lot of it is super helpful. And one of the things he says is, hey, look, if you post something online and it doesn't connect, it's not good, the algorithm knows that and they won't show it to people. So first of all, you don't have to worry about your bad stuff getting shown all over because the algorithm will not show it to people. And if it's really bad, like if you go on and say something's going to happen and then an election pops off or, the market tanks or whatever, his framework is you go back to that post, you hit the little button and you delete the shit and you just move on with your life. And so, it's like none of this really is that heavy. I think we think people care about us more than they do. We're
Yeah.
all thinking about ourselves, our families, our businesses, paying rent, whatever, paying our mortgage. And nobody really cares if, Danielle made a post where she predicted a 25 basis rate cut and it didn't happen. Like nobody cares, right? So like just try to provide some value online if that's something you feel like you can do. And it doesn't have to be Instagram, right? It doesn't have to be TikTok. It doesn't have to be YouTube. If you're a great writer, you can go on LinkedIn. You can post on Threads or Twitter. If you like talking, you can start a podcast, right? So, I mean, the idea here is there is a lot of value in going one-to-one. I built my business that way. I still do a lot of that. And I like that, right? Because remember, I spend 2/3 of my time in Massachusetts sitting in my office doing Zoom and phone calls. When I go back home, which is typically once a month, I'll fly back, see people, do events, do a bunch of stuff. I do that because I get hyped off seeing my clients and my partners and being in the market. And that's why I'm 100% an advocate for that. But there is some value in having a way to show up for people when you're not there, to let them spend time with you. I think it was Google did a study that people need, they call it 7-Eleven 4, but they need to spend 7 hours with you over 11 different touch points and hopefully on 4 different platforms, whether it's email, on the phone, YouTube, whatever, to really feel comfortable, right? That's how Google figured out when people actually buy a couch, they don't walk in and buy a couch like they used to the old days. They stalk the couch on Instagram. They talk to friends about it. They go sit on the couch. They watch videos. And then eventually you said, okay, cool, I'm ready to go buy the couch, right? And that's kind of how we need to think about creating an environment for people to spend time with us when we're not there. So like, we have, this in the mortgage business, we're like, okay, make a post and then get them to click the link to set up a call. Well, that's hard. That's hard. People don't necessarily want to go the whole journey with you on day one, right? They don't necessarily are not ready to transact just because you made a post about the 3 ways to fix your credit. Like you have to kind of provide value and let them know, let them feel comfortable because most people aren't ready to transact day one, but they're going to in the future. And that's the whole idea of continuing to stay present, it is a long game.
It is a long game. That's a really good point too, because myself included, but clients and everybody else, like we think we finally did one, but maybe didn't get the impressions. To your point earlier, the algorithm kicked it. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, please, right? Like it's a and you said earlier, it's an infinite game. It's a
Yeah.
long game, and that can be hard, right? Because we are now wired for instant gratification,
Yes.
right? And so that's there's a conflict there. But for playing a long game and you find value in what you're saying, I mean, I'll go back and listen to my post I'm like, that's brilliant. How come this didn't go viral? But it's
Yeah.
not about virality either, right? I mean, and if I can just get that one comment in there and someone gets value, yes, I feel great about it. Okay, cool, but still it does nag at me. And so, but it is an infinite game. Keep going, keep providing value, find your voice. And again, I'm just going to say, just hit the red button.
Right. And watch what performs, right? So like you have to do a lot of it. That's why the problem is, a lot of people will give up after
Yeah.
60 or 90 days. They're like,
Yeah.
this doesn't work. I didn't get any deals out of it. Well, you don't even have enough data to even know. I used to sell commercial real estate. And I learned this lesson early on. When I graduated college, I worked selling commercial real estate, industrial sales and leasing. And that was a terrible cold calling job. I hated that job. But I did that for 2.5 years. And I remember when I first started, my job was to come in the morning, clear my email, do my stuff in the office, and then I would drive down to the territory, shout out Hayward, San Leandro, Union City, California. There were all these industrial parks, and I would have a flyer. It wasn't mine. It was somebody else's. I would take their name off and I put my picture and my name on there so it looked like my listing. And I would go and knock doors. And I try to figure out, hey, this shipping company, who's the manager? When does their lease roll? And the whole idea was to kind of figure out who was what, try to build a relationship. And oftentimes I never got to the decision maker. It was the secretary or whatever. Or I'd try to walk through their roll-up door and figure whoever stopped me was like the foreman, and maybe that person would talk to me. It was bad. But I remember when I first started, I went down there and I think like I had my flyers and I went and knocked 10 doors. And I came back and I was like talking to, my mentor. I was like, I've knocked 10 doors every day for the last week and I haven't gotten anything. And he's like, 10 doors. He's like, you have to knock 100 doors a day for 90 days before we even figure out if your script is working. And I was like, oh shit. So it's like the amount of volume that you need to do to even know if it's working or not is way beyond what most people have the stomach for. And that's how you then figure it out. If you knock 100 doors for 90 days, you can say, okay, cool, I need to tweak this. Or if you post a video a day for 90 days, you can say these 10 performed. What do they have in common? Let's go make 10 more just like this. Or let's take the best elements of these 10 and go, ideate around it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the beauty now, even with AI, I mean, I'm using AI to go back and look at all my past posts and now do deep research and analyze it. Tell me what, help me with that data insight. What is the formula that's starting to work? So anyway, I mean, there's a whole
That's interesting. I
avenue
haven't
to
done
go.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share with you. I was just doing it on the plane yesterday coming back from Dallas. And again, this is a whole rabbit hole, and that's where AI comes in, is let AI help you do the lift, not replace you,
Right.
but help leverage you. And so it creates a lot of insight. And then it can also say, hey, go look at Brady, go look at top Instagram
Yeah.
influencers in the mortgage space and do deep research on their formulas and give me some insights and how I can then, how does that apply to my, what I'm saying? And it can start giving you some strategies as well. So again, there's a lift in there that we can tap into.
And look at folks that aren't in your niche and what
Yeah.
they're doing that's working. Because oftentimes if you can take some best practices from somebody who maybe is in the digital sales niche, or I've pulled some really cool ideas. Some have worked, some haven't, from fitness influencers or people
Sure.
that, do cooking videos on, so there's like all types of stuff you can get influence from and bring it into what you're doing and, test it out. Obviously it's going to be tricky in the beginning to get it right, but you can kind of see what works.
And ultimately, I think in the simple truth, I mean, people care about what you care about.
Right.
So talk about what you care about.
Right.
And if you do that, that's going to be fuel. You don't have to fake it. You don't, and to your point earlier, be a student. You don't have to be an expert if you don't, be an expert in what you're an expert about, which is things that you care about. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the stuff, again, because we want to create momentum. It's not about motivation. I'm going to do this post. That's work, that's grind, and it won't last. It's about momentum. I got to flow. And then all of a sudden, hey, I'm really excited about this topic. I want to go talk about it.
Yeah.
And then I also, the other thing I advise too is because people can be stuck in, I don't know what to talk about. I said, that's easy. Just capture, don't create. Every day you have a conversation and you have an insight, just grab that insight and there's your content for the day.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
And also share a little bit about who you are. I tried to let people in. I have a 4-year-old, and a lot of people have seen, post pictures and videos of him. I'm a big sports fan, so I talk a lot about, my favorite soccer team and basketball team, and that just like, increases the area for people to connect with me, right? It just increases the ability for people to have something in common where they're like, oh, cool. I didn't, connect with Brady until I saw that he's a big history buff and, that sort of thing, or he loves coffee. I mean, I try to share all the things I'm into because one, it's easier for me to talk about things I like.
Yeah.
And two, it gives me a chance to resonate with people who are aligned with me. The other thing for me is if you follow me, I am openly, I wouldn't say political, but I will be critical when I see things that are happening in DC. And I tend to try to focus on what it is that I know, which is mortgage, monetary policy, finance. I'm not talking about other things, but if I see things that are not sitting well with me, I'll talk about them because that's the energy that I need to be able to post and be creative online. If I'm forcing myself to not share things I feel strongly about, like it's shown to me that I'm not going to continue to do it. I can't continue to keep up with
Yeah.
doing stuff I'm not excited about.
Yeah, it's authentic, and I do follow you, and I love listening to your post because again, it helps open up perspectives. It helps me be a student, especially maybe areas I have expertise in.
Yeah.
But when I listen to people like you, the stuff I have an expertise in, and you have an expertise in, well, guess what happens? I'm now a student of your expertise, right?
Yeah.
And same thing that breeds on what I think is one of the most important characteristics, especially in leadership, but all of us, curiosity.
Mm,
Be curious, always be curious. So I want to listen. And I mean, even on the political front, especially during election season, but I'm always flipping between the channels, call it Fox and MSNBC. I love hearing both sides of the
yeah.
same topic. I mean, that it's maddening about how, how headliney it can be. But
Yeah.
that's where I rather listen to, guys like you and friends, and where we can actually cut through the noise and the bullshit and be like, okay, well, what is the meaning behind this? How is this impactful? And and where do we think this, kind of leads to? Trying to get the politics aside. And
Yeah.
that's what I like about when I do hear, when I'm listening to your content is, there's an application to me on the street, and you have a finger on the pulse because of how connected you are through your business and your clients and your referral partners. I mean, just like all of us, but to our own, worlds and our own, kind of atmospheres. And so there is impact to that. There's impact to that on the geographies you live in and
Yeah.
whatnot. And so, that's relevant. That's important.
Yeah. I mean, I realize that not everybody will agree with everything that I say. And I think that that's okay. In fact, I think you were the one that shared with me that, we all have a personal brand. It's just whether or not you're willing to take the time and energy to craft it, to let people know how and who you are, how to think about you. And so, I've talked to people that say, I can't say the things that you're saying. And I say, great, don't. I'm saying the things that I'm saying because those are the things that I believe, but maybe you could say something else. And it could be about anything that you care about because our BS meters are up so often online with marketing, with advertising, that if you just say something that's vulnerable or honest, like it cuts through. Like people get it right away. If you try to fake that, we know it. We've seen it all before, right? So,
And it
you
doesn't
know,
have to be polished. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think that
oh,
vulnerable, and I think, and that's also like, in the, let's say it's funny, like the evolution of social media strategy, it was getting more polished and perfect videos and script and all that. And now it's like coming back around to
yeah,
just talk, say,
yeah,
fumble your word.
yeah,
It's fine.
yeah.
I mean, don't make it trashy, but like, it doesn't have to be polished. It just, people
The
want
bare
that
minimum.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just make sure your camera lens is clean.
Yeah.
Make
I
sure
know Neil says that.
Make sure you have some form of, way to capture what you're saying, the sound, there's good lighting, and then you're good. You're ready to rock. I mean, again, that's why that some of those videos where people are just talking in their car, it feels like you're let into somebody's personal world and you're like, "Oh, let me see what they're actually stopped their day to share with me." And that's why that stuff works. It doesn't have to be, you hired a film crew and you go and batch record for, 12 hours. That stuff is kind of played right now.
Yeah, 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 and I'm a big fan of the walk and talk. I'll go for a
Yeah.
run, I'll stop, I kind of
Yeah, I've seen that.
do a quick one of these and keep going. And anyway, I can, I could try to have some fun with it. Like I've done before. I call them a jog by high five. So I'm on a run and another runner's coming. I just give him a high five on the way. I used to
Nice.
do that, and then I'd kind of talk about after. Okay, this guy just
Yeah.
ran by. I gave him a
Yeah.
high five. He was all into it. Or another guy, another person like, I kind of freaked him out.
And how much, I mean, how much can somebody glean from you just through the fact that you would do that, right? You're personable, you're
Yeah,
outgoing, you're outdoorsy.
yeah,
There's a whole bunch of things there that we don't even think like, oh, why would anybody care? No, that's tells a lot about who Craig is, right? So
yeah. Let's have a little fun. Let's have a
yeah,
little wit. Let's not take ourselves too seriously, but take what we do, and I like expressing those points in the content I do. Very mindset oriented. Like again, these are things I care about, and my audience cares about what I care about, just like,
yeah,
you and whatnot. So, okay. So, I mean, because there's another direction, that I want to, talk about with you. You've moved to Boston. You've kind of broken the system a little bit. You're rebuilding it. You're maximizing your value. You're connecting it to your audience. You've learned these different strategies. Your confidence is building, especially in the one to many as you're growing your social presence and whatnot. I can sense, obviously, it's connecting your purpose. Another thing, like you and I talked about when we were in Napa together, you're locking into your genius zone, right? And when we kind of have that connection, that's our purpose. And when we're locked into our genius zone, that again is just the fuel to our, momentum. So where has that been taking you? What have you been discovering beyond, your social presence? I mean, some of the things that we were talking about earlier, the frameworks you're developing, how you're continually building your business, sort of your goals with LaSalle Mortgage, which was a lot of what we were talking about back in, 2 months ago. Talk to me a little bit about like your discovery and sort of these inspirations that you're developing.
yeah. I mean, I think for me, I mentioned before, my job before getting into the mortgage business was commercial real estate, and that was a lot of cold calling. It was almost interruption by design. My whole paycheck just required me to interrupt people in order to try to get information from them so I could then sell to them. And so when I got over here and started doing the mortgage stuff, I realized pretty quickly that there was a unique opportunity because there were these realtors who, if I provided amazing service, would continue to send me their clients. I did not have to go cold call for every new transaction. And that was the aha moment for me. That's when I really started to be like, okay, I think I can do this. After focusing a lot of time on trying to serve every single aspect of the marketplace for the first 10 or 12 years in the business, it dawned on me that I needed to be able to explain to people where I was the right fit without necessarily requiring them to do a lot of heavy lifting or to do a lot of mental load. Because again, realtors oftentimes don't always understand what it is that mortgage lenders do. They understand our purpose. And so I needed to be able to get to a position where I can make it easy for them. So I've been kind of thinking about this idea of what I call referral gravity. This is basically making it easy for the marketplace to understand when to refer you and to draw in business without having to cold call, because that's something that I just decided I could not do in this life, in this world after commercial real estate. So how do you get chosen without chasing? How do you make sure agents know exactly when to call you, that you build trust even when they don't need you right then, which is what we talked about before is, how do you make sure people, even when they're not ready to transact, still believe in you and remember who you are? And then also, if we do get that call, how do we just knock it out the park so that we can, so if I go out and say, hey, we're open for business, we want to help your clients, that we can actually perform and deliver and we don't get overloaded. So, that's for me what the referral gravity thing comes down to. The first idea is this idea of transactional clarity, so basically making sure agents know exactly when to call you. I don't think that real estate agents refer people as much as they refer problems. Their
Mm.
paycheck is on the line every single time they send out a referral, right? And so many times in the mortgage space, lenders will say, hey, I'm great at everything. Oh my God, we're so good. We do VA, FHA, jumbo, conforming, non QM. Well, if you're good at everything, then you don't make it easy for someone to know exactly when to call you. So I tell people, look, you should make sure when you are talking to agents, you are programming them, you are anchoring them to know when to call you. Maybe your approach to them is, hey, do you work with self-employed borrowers? Because I have, the expertise in helping difficult self-employed borrowers be able to buy homes. When you have somebody, you need to think of me. Now, I do everything else. Of course, I'm happy to help if you have other things. But if you have a difficult self-employed borrower, I'm the only person that should come to mind. and we need to work on those. And then you can go get all of their business later, right? So for me, my kind of niche is what I call the two home tango. It is the delicate dance of buying a home when you already own your departing residence. So it's basically buy before sell. Sometimes we help people through traditional bridge loans. Sometimes we get regular old conforming loans. Sometimes we get HELOCs. Sometimes we have to walk them through the process of selling first, even if they didn't want to. But I tell agents, before you send that client to a bridge lender and they sell them an expensive bridge loan, or before you send them to Wells Fargo and they tell them they have to sell first, they need to talk to me. And I will then make sure you guys have everything you need to make the right decision down the road. So, when I'm trying to explain my value, I don't want to be generic because that's forgettable. I really want to translate for the agents when I'm the right person to solve a specific problem.
Okay, look, we've got to package this up right here for everybody here. Like, this is such gold. Your referral partners, they're not referring you people, they're referring you problems.
Yeah.
That right there, everybody, like, lock that in. And I'm going to give you an example because I talk about this all. Like, I see loan officers all the time. Hey, I can do DSCR loans. Nobody knows what that means.
Nobody knows.
Nobody cares. You're just talking to other loan officers.
Right.
Instead, hey, I am an expert at helping self-employed people with great CPAs buy an investment property. I'm identifying a persona and a problem and how I solve that. And to your point, now I'm rememberable. Now I'm memorable, I should say, right? The two home tango, that delicate dance. Well, a lot of buyers are in that position. So now you are memorable. That's clarity. So in your referral gravity, okay, I see you.
Mhm.
Brady can help me solve this problem. I know he can do all this other stuff, but he can help me solve a problem. And if you can help me solve a problem, that solves my problem. Hey,
Yeah.
Brady, I got a referral for you.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think the thing too, the unlock is twofold. One, remember, these agents, like you said, they don't necessarily know what we do. So you have to speak in terms of their problem. So when I talk to agents, oftentimes I'll say, we just helped one of your colleagues figure out a way how to get $60,000 worth of commissions when they weren't going to get a single penny. Let me explain to you what happened. They had worked with a client. The client said they needed to sell first, but they couldn't figure out how to do it because they have a complicated life with kids and dogs, school districts. We were able to get them into a home so they could buy before they sell. And then that agent was able to get them out of the house and get their departing residents listed and get top dollar. And so I lead with the benefit for them, which is the big commission. And then I explain what we did to solve the problem. And I'm kind of, one, I'm putting in their terms. And number two, I'm anchoring them. I'm programming them to think of me when that comes. So do you ever work with people that are buying and want to look at options to buy before they sell? And if the answer invariably is yes. Or do you ever work with difficult self-employed borrowers? They always say yes, but if they say no, that's an easy one too, because you say, oh my God, you're so lucky. These can be really complicated. I promise you the next client you have will fall right into this category as it always does. And you know to call us, right? So either way, I'm still getting to my point.
Yeah.
But I'm just, asking it and framing it in a way that's helpful for them and hopefully memorable because they're thinking about the same thing that I'm thinking about, which is how I can help them close more deals and make more money.
It's so good. Yeah. Okay. So we have referral gravity, we have clarity, and we have personas and problems. I would,
Yeah.
like solve their problem. And I'll highlight what you just said too, in their language, their problem. Don't solve your problem, solve their problem. What's
Yeah.
a realtor's problem is slightly different than the borrower's problem. But if we can solve the borrower's problem in the realtor's language, and now we're memorable, now we're, creating referral gravity. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's our clarity.
Yeah. So the transactional clarity is kind of the first pillar. I think the second pillar, and this is getting back to what we talked about with social media, is just this idea of having some authority, right? I want people to pay attention to me even when they don't need me. So it's not a volume thing. It's about framing. So shaping conversations, publishing insights, right? Teaching, being a thought leader, building assets that are like the infrastructure to anchor people in our credibility. So I do a lot of webinars. So one of the things I realized a while back was there's kind of, and I learned this from Jeff Zimfer, who I worked with him for a little bit, and he does a lot of agent education. And so he said, when you first start out in the industry, at the very bottom of the pyramid are all the agents that are running around just kind of asking for deals, cold calling. There's a lot of those folks. That's where you enter. You kind of have to start there. And then after a while, you kind of figure out what you're doing and you're selling product and programs. So you're saying, hey, we have this 7-year arm. We have this da 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 da. And then eventually you get up to the next stage, which is rarefied air. and you're more like colleagues. You're on the same level as the realtors you're working with. And so there's some value, and you can be a top producer there. But there's a place above that, which is where you're an actual teacher, where they need you, where you are adding to them in their careers and their bottom line. And so I try to do a lot of that. I do webinars, we do events. We just rolled out this thing we call the Field Report, which is basically we reached out to the top 100 agents in my market. So the top 100 by volume in 2025. And I begged, cajoled, and demanded that each of them complete a survey for me. Out of the top 100, 66 of them completed a 25-question survey. We turned it into what we called the Field Report. It's what the top 100 inner East Bay agents saw, said, and did in 2025 and what they expect for 2026. And it is thought leadership. It is an industry report that we turned into an aesthetically beautiful document. It's like 25 pages. It was a lot of work. It was more work than I thought it would be. But imagine being able to reach out, have a valid business reason to reach out to the top 100 agents in your market and show them, one, that you're patting them on the back for being top 100, showing thought leadership and authority by even thinking to put something like this together. And then we gave them an asset, some collateral, some marketing that they can use through this. And we just rolled it out last week. It was really well received. We did a Zoom insight briefing with 5 of the top agents where they talked about the market, and then we rolled it out. And so that's the type of thing I'm speaking to with authority. It's like, how do you become a key person of influence in your space? How do you kind of change the power dynamic so you're not asking for business, but you're almost able to start the conversations yourself? So, that's kind of
Well,
where the authority piece comes in to start to
and it's
create the
like,
gravity.
I see you,
Yeah.
right? And I see you, and you're putting yourself in the way of opportunity with those you want to have opportunity with,
Yes.
right? Providing this value at that upper echelon, which is where you want to grow your business. And now, I mean, how many one-to-many strategies, webinars, talking, presenting this data to other real estate groups, putting you out in front of the expert of, I can invest in you to help you grow your business. That's, by the way, a give, not an ask. And that's where we can get caught up in is the ask. We're asking for business. What if we gave value instead?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And I saw you roll that out, and I'm like, God, it's so good. It's so good. And nobody's thinking this way. So you're also now unique. You're standing out of the crowd of, a very non-niche business
Right.
nowadays,
Right.
and you're developing, I see you, I remember you, I know you, and oh, hey, can I also send you business?
Yeah. And let's add, again, the whole idea of this referral gravity, the whole idea of how I wanted to build my business was not out asking people to send me deals. Like, I have realtor partners that I've worked with for years that all of a sudden I stop hearing from them. My response isn't to go and say, "Hey, why didn't you send me a deal? I need your next deal." It's, there must be something there that I'm not doing, and let me kind of triangulate and ask the right questions and sow genuine curiosity and see, and oftentimes it really is just being genuinely curious about what's going on with them. And then it ticks back over. And so,
Be curious. Always be
yeah,
curious.
yeah, exactly. And so, like, the whole point here is to show people that you're adding rather than just always taking.
That's it. Yeah. And if we frame that way, we're going to look through the lens of give versus, ask and receive. And that changes how we approach, right? And it changes the dynamic of the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. So referral gravity, we've got transactional clarity. We've got authority, thought leadership, give. And then I know you have a number
Yeah.
3 in this
Yeah.
framework.
And then the last part is just operational leverage, right? So, this is this idea of, if we're going out into the market and saying, "Hey, here's what we do. Here's when you should think of us. Here's why we believe we can help you solve your problems." If those deals start coming in, we better not, the system better not break. So I need, I have a pretty big team, and we're actually growing still. And the idea is, we need to have the ability to service these deals when they come in. So we need to be really solid with our scripted process. Everybody needs to get the same experience from us. We need to think about making sure we explain it well. We have repeatable systems and communication. We are very much focused on having increased volume without chaos. And so I think you almost need to start there. If you are just getting going, you need to make sure that you've thought about the beginning, from the first contact until the closing date, and every little micro step in between, so that you know that your clients are getting the right experience. And you can't be doing it ad hoc, because as soon as you try to turn up the volume, that's when things break. And now all of a sudden, you're the person with transactional clarity who's in the marketplace. but everyone's saying how they sent you a deal and it didn't get closed on time and it broke. So if your business collapses under growth, you don't have gravity. The momentum that you're creating can fade really quickly if people are recognizing that you're not set up for the numbers you're trying to bring in.
Systems and scale,
Yeah.
and the right people around you, and it's repeatable, it's repetitive. The other thing, and once you get someone into the system, you're still educating, right? You're still not just
Yeah.
transactional only, you're still educating. And it's all about the experience. I mean, I used to say my product is the experience, right? It's not the mortgage, it's the experience I
Right.
provide through this process. And again, that focus of the lens, not just I look through, but everybody in my atmosphere. That is our ethos. Our product is the experience. And, Phil remembers that because, we were growing business together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So systems, scale, we're leveraging, and because really, as you know, like that's where the relationship really begins now is not even just through the transaction, but now post transaction. If you provide a great experience, right now we've really created referral gravity. I mean, in the full circle is
Yeah.
what I'm hearing. So,
Yeah.
dude, it's you're crushing it, man. And then I'll just say, and then here's the result: 45% increase in production. I mean, that's what like that becomes a very clear directional 45% increase in production in arguably the toughest years in the mortgage business. Okay,
Yeah.
now I understand how.
And enjoying it a bit more, you know?
And falling back in love with the business.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest risk that we all have is, starting to hate what we do. And like it doesn't matter how well you're doing, if you can't sustain it, if it's something that pulls out of you and doesn't give back, it's doesn't matter what type of machine. I mean, I think you see this all the time with a lot of these celebrities, creators, athletes where they just burn out. Right? And so for me, it was getting into a different part of the business and learning a new skill and thinking about things differently that really shaped things for me. And I'm in the process of trying to figure out what part of the originations portion of our business I really like being involved in delegating everything else. So I really like solving complex problems for clients like the two home tango. I really like putting those pieces together. My team is amazing at walking first time homebuyers through the process. And so I try to spend more of my time focusing on the ones where I add more. And then I have Lindsay and Elizabeth and Ari Lou and Laura who are so much better at explaining the process to first time homebuyers. And so I still connect with those folks. We still have a part in the process where everybody gets on a call with me, but we're trying to make sure that we're each, doing the things that we are like within our full self actualization of what we enjoy doing.
Dude, it's this is what I would say is called success on purpose.
Mm,
And to your point, if you are not connecting into what drives you, your genius zone, what you feel purposeful about, where you get value, then it's really just grind and you'll grind
right,
out, you'll burn
right,
out.
right.
But when you have this, it's grit. Grit's going to get you there and keep you there, and momentum's going to develop. But all of a sudden, it's not a grind. I
Yeah,
want to do this. It's fuel. I wake
yeah,
up in the morning. Hey, look, I'm not excited about every day I'm jumping out of bed, but like I wake up every morning, like, and I look at my calendar, like, awesome. I'm doing a podcast with Brady today. I can hardly wait for this conversation.
right,
Like I look forward to my appointments with my clients. I look forward to, my business. And I couldn't always say that in my prior career.
right.
Grind, grind, grind. But every day I now get to wake up and like, okay, awesome, and because it's connected into my purpose, right? And
Yeah,
and that's what I'm hearing, with you and seeing the results of what you're doing and what you're building and I feel honored that you've been able to invite me into some of your strategic planning and what we've been talking about and seeing where you're going and how you and Phil and Shannon are building LaSalle Mortgage and where you guys are going. I mean, you guys are, going to be a dominant market share leader in the East Bay and beyond. And I will say, not just referral gravity, but I would say growth gravity. You are going to be attractive to other originators who are going to say, I'd like to be in your atmosphere. I'd
right.
like to be pulled into this gravity. And I can
Yeah,
see it clearly. And dude, I appreciate you coming on and talking shift, man.
yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. There's so much gold, guys. Well, we're gonna, I think we're gonna have to continue this conversation. You're gonna have to be back because there's so much more I think still to even unpack from this. So
Yeah, would love to.
yeah, awesome. All right, Brady, thank you again. Appreciate you talking shift. Everybody, give Brady some love. Brady, how can everybody follow you? How can they get to know you more?
But yeah, on Instagram, I'm Pep Talk Mortgage, Pep Talk Mortgage. And then again, I'm an originator out of Oakland, California at LaSalle Mortgage. And so you can find us on our website or online at Pep Talk Mortgage.
Awesome. And we'll have the links in the show notes and all the good stuff.
Nice.
So. All right, brother. I appreciate you. We'll talk soon, everybody. Good seeing you.
Man.
Hey, thanks for joining me today on Talking Shift. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on our next episode.